Is that okay with you, Congressman?
Absolutely.
A few questions. So I know we have a good variety out in the audience. If you have a question, you handed me your paperwork, please stand up, because I handed it back to you.
Can you hear me at the back?
So we're going to start over here with Deanna.
Oh, thank you for giving up the mic.
So here's the rule. You can ask me anything you'd like, and I'll decide if I'm going to answer it. So feel free to do that.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for stepping up to represent us as our next governor of Arizona. My question has to do with the geoengineering, and I definitely believe in it. Every other day, I literally look up into the sky to see what the sky looks like. And with these now wildfires, I'm from Missouri, the tornadoes, the Stillwater, Oklahoma wildfire, weed, then Fredericksburg, Texas, weed, and all the other wildfires, the F3, F4, and they're even saying on the ground that they think F5 tornadoes. So what's being done, I think that is being manipulated to destroy our country. And being here in Arizona, after the fire of LA, I stopped at my local fire department and had a nice conversation. I live in Ahwatukee. Our fire hydrants, do they work? Water, are we going to have water? And they assured me everything was okay. Okay, so the question is, what's being done on the federal, just showing my fears, especially living in Arizona, what's being done at the federal level for geoengineering to get this stopped?
So I sit on a working group, I guess we would call it, that deals with unexplained phenomena. And in that working group, we actually tackled this question a bit, and I've seen legislation dealing with required disclosure regarding any kind of geothermal experimentation, weather experimentation, etc. This is, by the way, this is not. These issues are not new. When I was a kid, remember you used to do cloud seeding in Arizona?
Yes, down in Tucson. I remember seeing it as a kid.
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Tucson, and we our cloud seeding was regular. We're trying to get to the bottom of it. Some federal agencies, as you might guess, are not particularly forthcoming with this. Well, if there's one thing that we've learned from President Trump's his second term here, is that you have to push hard, and this executive branch is willing to stir up the pot to give us some answers, and that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you so much. We have one more for you.
My name is Lisa Deering. Thank you for your time here tonight. Would you mind please speaking to Medicare and Medicaid funding versus and what's actually going to happen or is being planned versus the fear-mongering that Ruben Gallego and Mark Kelly have been talking about?
So I'm going to cover those. That'll take about 45 minutes just on but no, I'll try to go very, very quickly. I'm going to throw Social Security in there too if I can. So let's deal with Social Security first. Well, first of all, with all three of them, the consideration the administration is doing is strictly on fraud, waste, and abuse. That's all they're looking at. So on Social Security, nobody's benefits are going to be harmed, hurt, or cut unless you're defrauding the federal government. Unless you're 145 years old.
Unless you're 300 years old.
That might be an issue. So that's where you are in Social Security, and Medicare's the same. Medicaid's a little bit different, and I'll tell you why. Medicaid has two pots. You have the traditional Medicaid population, then you have the expansion Medicaid population. And the FMAP, or the federal matching rate in the expansion population is different than if you're an able-bodied worker, what you get is the feds give a higher match rate to the states than we give if you are a disabled worker. And we've not seen any language But I did know that that was one of the things they were kicking around, is to make sure that they were even. So you'd have instead of 90-70, you'd have 70% match rate. The impact of that, believe it or not, is somewhere $500 to $600 billion per year. And so that's one thing. The other one is that they're talking about is if you are able-bodied, maybe you should have to work, and you have a work requirement. That's probably another $350 billion a year. So between those two things, it'd be in excess of $1 trillion of savings. And the idea would be, of course, you want to stabilize. If you're going to get those benefits, you want to be able to give those benefits, and so you have to stabilize that. And our current national structural deficit is $2.25 trillion per year. That is to say, we spend $2.25 trillion more than we bring in every year. And at the same time, the national debt is just under $37 trillion. And if we don't bring it under within 10 years, my calculations would be about $72 trillion in national debt, and we will go from a roughly 123% debt to GDP ratio to about 265% debt to GDP ratio. And the only other nation that survives that right now is communist China, and they survive that kind of debt to GDP ratio because they're authoritarian, and we're not authoritarian. And Trump's bringing back freedom wildly, and that's where we want to be a very free people that can economically prosper, and we want that for our children and our children's children. So that's why. So that's the context of getting to what your question is. But it is, they're looking at fraud, waste, and abuses. That's really it.
Thank you. I've got one more back here for you, and this will be the last question, and then we're moving on.
Hi, Congressman Biggs. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Ariane Buser, and I'm in LD3. My main concern now that we have a really crucial election coming up next year, we have 3 key seats we have to win in Arizona. And my main concern is that election integrity has not been fixed. I feel like, especially because the governor has voted down that she is not going to push for having same-day voting results. What is that? Honestly, the Board of Supervisors is challenging Justin Heap and taking away his powers as a Maricopa County reporter. I think we have some serious issues in Maricopa County and in Arizona in general that need to be fixed. When you are governor, how will you help to rectify these issues that we will no longer be the laughing stock of the United States?
Thank you. I will preface it by saying some of my friends in Georgia, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, they always come to me and say, Andy, we love your state. I said, oh, really? When was the last time you were there? I said, we've never been there. But if it wasn't for Maricopa County's election problems, we would be the laughing stock of the country. So I get what you're saying. So here's my plan. The election integrity bill that the legislature passed, pretty darn good bill. So when I'm elected, before I'm even sworn in, what we're going to do is we're going to get both the House and the Senate. We're going to get a sponsor. They're going to pre-file these 2 bills, and they're going to go in. And on the first day, so we're going to open up session. I'll get sworn in. They'll start moving that through the committee, so that by the end of the first week, I'll be signing that election integrity bill to make Arizona the leader in the country, not the laggard in the country.
I'm sorry, one more. This is a good one.
I thought all of them have been good so far.
Hi, Amy. I want to say thank you for running so much, because we've all been in the struggle with who has been leading our state. But one of my biggest concerns is the cartel influence in our politics in Arizona. And in fact, I was just watching Vince, who took over for Dan Mangino, who's now going to be our assistant deputy director of FBI. That's awesome. But he actually mentioned Arizona. He says Mexico is more of a threat to the United States than Iran. And that is because of the cartel, and now that Biden has enriched them so much over the last 4 years. How do we manage this and get their influence out of our state, out of our elections, out of our legislature?
So the cartels are really, they still control our southern border, just so you know. And when I talk about they controlling the human trafficking, they control that, and that we've got 62 linear miles, and I won't mention any particular names, but 62 linear miles where there's hardly any control, operational control by the Border Patrol. They're doing great, it's not their fault, but that 62 miles is a real problem. So what President Trump has done is he's declared them foreign terrorist organizations, and that allows us to do certain things. My only concern about that is I don't want that to give legitimacy to an asylum claim by somebody who's coming in, passing through Mexico. So this is the cartels have really gotten crazy, and so what I promised I'm going to do is I'm going to place a border czar. I have one in mind. I've actually talked to this individual already. They're so anxious to become the border czar, they'd like to do it tomorrow. And then we will reinstitute a meaningful border security task force in DPS. And so they're going to be down to providing support. But we're going to stop the cartels from coming in. If you ever want to see how bad it is in Culiacan and Sinaloa, I would go to YouTube and just put up, I think, like Narco Wars or something like that. And you will see how bad the cartels are and how violent they are. The other thing that I will do is, I'm trying to get this done at the federal level, I'm trying to get this done, is we have got to stop the gun trafficking southbound and the money trafficking southbound. So there's two ways to do it. One of them is I've got a bill that's moving right now. It should be on the reconciliation package that would actually tax remittances going south, and that will slow down their incentive. Second thing is I'm trying to get them to do more southbound operations. They do them periodically. They did one in Nogales one time for a week. They found like $1.5 million, $2 million in one car, a minivan. Grandmama's driving it. She's going south. She has $1 million stuffed in all the places. Until we actually start bashing them where they live, which is money, they will continue to try to buy influence here and elsewhere. And I'll tell you where it's really bad, though, is Texas. They had 3 candidates in one county there for sheriff. All 3 were affiliated with the cartel. So this is something we've got to be alert to and be aware of. But it's a great question, but we got to fight that. Thank you. Now she needs it to help this time. Really good.
We are so blessed, you guys. We have some great candidates that are coming up. Next, we're going to have Sherry Lopez come share with us what she's doing with the